Hi there guys, this is Cassandra. I'm a riffle in time. I'm so glad you're here. Today we're doing the top 10 tarot decks of 2024. So you know there's been a lot of sweating, a lot of panicking at the disco today. I'm gonna call it though. This is my top 10. If you give me 5 more minutes, I would probably like move something around, but it's really hard for me to pick my favorites. But I think I can justify this top 10. I do want a heads up that I did not include Outgrow Yourself or Extraordinary Incantations in this video. They're tarot oracles, so they would be in the top 5 of both videos. I thought that would be kind of repetitive, and I just wanted to give you like 10 tarot, 10 oracle, and I think pretty much mostly I use them really loosely in that in-between space, so I'm just gonna say oracle. They don't do that really strict kind of structure all the time, so I don't know. I'm trying to be fair. But no, if I had to pick like a top 5 decks of 2024, they would be in it. No matter where what list we're talking about, they're in the top. So we love them. Spoilers, I guess. Spoilers. This set of 10 though, I didn't do prompts because it's like a top 10 decks, but I kind of do have like my reasoning, which is a little prompty, I guess. Like, I guess we will just kind of jump right in, but my number 10, I think I'm going to pick, is going to be not the deck that I used the most for myself this year, but the deck I used the most for just readings for others. I don't think I used this deck at all for myself this year, but I did use this a lot in my in my tarot readings for other people. So this is, I did leave the boxes up here so I can box you. Oh, I can show the box of most of these. I just realized some of them are bags. So, but this is the white Numen. So this deck was chosen on many of occasions in my readings. The way I do my readings is I let people pick the deck they want. It's like a pick a deck reading instead of a pick a card. You just pick what deck you want me to use. And this one actually read extremely well for others, and I think too I really enjoy the kind of Legend of Zelda vibes it gives me. Like I've said before, I think like I feel like I could be like in the Gerudo Desert or like, you know what I mean? Like I feel like this just has that kind of maybe like anime deck vibe. I don't know how to explain it, but it has like really good, I think, energy to read for others too. It read really straightforward and honest, but without being too bitey. I have some bitey decks, but it ended up being like a really good option, and I had a couple good pairs with it too, because again, I'm doing pick a deck, and if you have more than like a 1 card reading, you can pick a different deck for every card if you want. So I had this paired up with quite a few cool things too, and I will say that I was looking over pictures, especially when I was doing this. I looked over pictures, I looked in my journal, and kind of like tried to gather real information. And I had a lot of readings with it this year. I saw many pictures, I guess. Then the number 9, I would say, would be a deck that I primarily used at the beginning of the year, but when I was really, really into it in the beginning of the year, and the reason I didn't use it in the fall and will not use it in the winter time is because it's like a pretty seasonally set deck for me. And so I think I still again used it enough and was like, it actually like inspired me to start doing deck interviews again. And so it felt impactful, I guess, on my year. And that is the Zekes. Do I have my box? Where did you go? Oh, the Zekes Arcana, or Arcana. I think I say Arcana usually, but what have you. This is a deck that I got at the beginning of the year, and all spring and summer I was all about it. It's just so bright, it's so colorful, it's kind of a little off the wall, and I had some really great readings with it this year. And again, it took up a lot of space in the time frame I used it in. I feel like it was in my like favorites video like every month for like 3 or 4 months. And I was just really surprised because I was kind of unsure about ordering the deck in the first place. And I ended up ordering it. It was fun. I think it's completely sold out now, but the whole reason I had like really pushed through to get it was because it was about to be out of print, and I guess it's one of those decks, like I'm really glad I took a leap on this year. It ended up being like really different, really fun, and definitely like brightened my time of year. I will say that the farther we get in, the harder this is going to get in. I think my 5 though, the like last 5 are pretty in order already. So next up would be the Journey Tarot. Let me find the box. It is sitting like the if it was a snake it would have bit you moment. Yeah, this is the Journey Tarot. I'm obsessed with the whole production of this deck. I think I've shared how much I love just even the box itself. I would display it on my walls, and I think this is one of those decks that I find so beautiful that even if I didn't use it, I think I would just look at it. Like even if I didn't already, this card specifically this is perfect because this is one of those cards, like I had so many readings like this that were just like wowzer, that I saw this card and I was like transported to sorry guys, you are hooked up and I just flung you. I flung you off of my stand. So what I was saying is this is one of those decks that I had like really specific readings with that I remember. I also, again, really was taken away with how beautiful it was. It's just another really unique deck. I have to read completely differently. I love that challenges me and that kind of takes me outside of my box of like what I think a card should mean. I want to live in this world. It's so beautiful. It just really was a stunner this year. Like when I'm thinking of like those standout decks, I know this is a top 10, but I mean, that's really what you're trying to do is like what deck stood out this year. This is definitely one that stood out. I used it a lot. It was also, I'm going to be doing a pairing video, like my favorite pairings of the year. This deck was one of those decks that was in a favorite pairing too. So I was using it with another deck. I really enjoyed that too, not even just by itself. So speaking of my favorite pairings, I guess more spoilers. The next 2 decks were one of my favorite pairs of the year. And I think I'm gonna go with number 7. Being the Jonasa Jaus, and then I'll do my number 5 as the Somia. These really, I'm just going to show them together because that's how I use them. I use them together. And though I do think I kind of prefer them it's like in the transitional periods, I really enjoy them. So like winter, I love them in general in winter, but like winter to spring, I loved this. I loved the kind of summer to fall to winter. Winter is something about Somnia always gives me winter vibes, but it let me use Somnia all year round, pairing it with Jonasa because it gave me some like color that I needed. I know that like you don't have to have color to use a deck in the spring and summer, but that's really what I'm attracted to. And I was able to bring some of, like this deck feels kind of cold and icy and watery. I don't know how to explain it. It's like sharp and crisp. And this feels more like warm and alive, and even though it's, you know, it's like a good balance together because they both have there's like more greenery in this, but not in a way that's too spring or summery, you know what I mean? I think like this reminds me more of, again, those like transitional liminal spaces of like not quite one season, not quite another yet. And I just really loved them together. I loved them on their own, especially after I trimmed them though. They were together. They were stuck together. There are 2 decks I used on their own, but the 2 decks that I probably used the most together would have been those 2. I have another pairing that is like giving it a run for its money. So it's definitely in the top 5 decks that I used together as like a pairing this year. Now this is going to be where the 5 gets harder because I haven't picked the next spots yet. I'm gonna go next. The order is kind of standing. I didn't like really purposefully set them this way, but I did kind of move some around, and I think it's working. So my number 5 is going to be Lilifer. This is a deck that I told you guys really, really surprised me, actually. This was like a comeback deck for me. So I had Lilifer in its very first edition, like the first Kickstarter, and I ended up actually passing it along because I just didn't connect with it. I had a really hard time reading with it and understanding what was happening. Most of the time I couldn't tell what card it was. So this was a deck I ended up getting back in the newer edition, and I really, really loved being able to meet it again as like a different like reader than I used to be. It's a different deck in some ways than it used to be. I love its little guidebook helps when I can't figure out what the heck's going on too. Because like I will tell you, I'm never like 100% knowing what's going on ever. But this just having it back, like let me see something in a different way, in a different time period. And it was really, really cool to me. I think this was also one of the decks that like I used it a lot in the summer specifically. I used it some in the spring, some in the summer, some in the fall, but in the summer, for some reason, it was really just taking me over, and it was one of actually the first decks that I used when I came back to reading after my dad's health issues that really kind of shook my year up. It was one of the first decks I was drawn back to. So not only was it like exciting to like reconnect with it, but it also like felt really special that I was having trouble using anything, and like for some reason the Lilifer just kept calling to me. I really I don't know, more pairings information that you'll get more of later, but I did some fun pairings with it this year too, which also always excites me. I love pairing decks up. Next we're gonna go with for number 4 will be Playful Heart. This started the year off with a bang, and honestly it's like such a consistent throughout the year for me. It's never like a ton at once, it's just like sprinkled. But it started out the year with a bang because this was the deck I did my year ahead with. So not only did I use it in other readings throughout the year, but I kept coming back to that original reading. So this was like a big player, it feels like, for a lot of different reasons. It's also just one of like my comfort go-to decks. When all else fails, it's like one of those decks that you pick up, you know? And the joy this deck brings me will never be able to be like minimized. I really love it. It makes me happy. This is the year that I ended up getting, I don't know if you can see, I ended up getting the copy. The creator actually did a few copies where they edged the deck themselves and they sold them, just like a limited edition thing, and I ended up getting it and actually trading off my personal copy. I did it as like a pre-loved deck in the shop. But so this is actually a new copy, but it's really cool because like again the creator hand edged this in like all different colors. And so that's really fun too and felt really special. But I don't know, this deck is, again, it's just one of the decks that every time I'm feeling, this is like one of my favorite things, is like I'm feeling big feelings, like almost like child feelings. I think I did a video this year, it was like the big feeling spread. It's just one of those things, is like you're having those big raw feelings that like are so core of like uncertainty and like again, I just felt like a big kid sometimes, and I'm just like in the middle of some big emotions, and it was just like my deck to go to for it. And next okay, next we are going to do number 3 is going to be Future Ancestor. And this deck, another one that is just like a real consistent deck for me over the years, like I just like come to it. This is one I've actually been using when like I did my Ancestor altar, I put a card from this on it. It's like something I visit pretty regularly right now, just even that card. And like using this deck, there's a lot of times I was like feeling, again, just like overwhelmed or lost or confused or just kind of heavy with grief, and like I would take a walk and bring this deck with me and like sit on a bench on the trail and pull a card, and it just felt really good. This deck is my this deck really grounds me in a good way, and I always say that it makes me feel like I'm walking barefoot in the woods. Like I don't know. There's something about the like color palette that's just really earthy, feel good. And I also genuinely, I just love the creator of this deck so much. She's just one of the best humans. And I just feel you can like, sometimes you can really feel someone's energy and intention. And I just always can. I can always feel like her energy and an intention in this deck, and what a beautiful thing to feel when you're like you're looking for kind of like you're reaching out into the void and like hoping that something like meets you there, and I always kind of feel her meet me there, and I think that's beautiful. Okay, so we're at top 2. And I'm not sure what to do. It is also just weird in general to be talking about my top 2 tarot decks for the year and not mentioning, like it not being Outgrow Yourself and Extraordinary Incantations. It just feels weird. So that's one thing. And then the other is like there's a deck here that I feel like I'm just in generally like I'm a poster child for at this point. I talk about it so much. I'm always like gushing. But then the other option here is not only the deck I think I probably used, other than Extraordinary Incantations and Outgrow Yourself, I probably used this deck the most this year, which historically isn't normally I don't normally use it that much. And then also, if I had to do like White Numen, I probably used it almost just as much as White Numen for readings for others, which is, again, just, I feel like I spent so much time with it this year, and I don't feel sick of it either, which I think is really cool. Neither of these decks are new, obviously. I guess I'll just start talking about it and then we'll go from there. So, talking about like the creator, I just love these people. So it's also makes them more special and also a little harder. I love Mari. You know I love Mari. I never shut up about the Gentle Tarot or the guidebook or anything else. My Friend Fire is like literally the deck I'm most looking forward to receiving right now. Obviously it won't be until next year, but I'm so excited about it. I mean, I just fangirl. It's just really what I like to do with tarot, is what it does very naturally with, again, the guidebook. I use tarot in this like reflective, kind of like self work kind of way, and not as much predictive and things like that. So this deck really feels like it fits that really well, and it's also colorful and beautiful. It's one of my favorite decks to like spend time with. I think this is one of those decks, like it's just, I think it was like in my top carry video. It just feels like it's in so many of my top 10s, and I think that's why it makes sense that it's like it's going to be in my pairing video, because it was like a core pair for the year. If I did a video on my guidebooks, that would be my number one guidebook for the year. Like there's so much about this deck that is, and that's probably why it should be the number one deck. But I will say, surprisingly, what's making it hard is that Oak, Ash, and Thorn is probably the deck I used most this year. And I think that's so bizarre, because though it's like always in consideration for my top 10, because a 3 Trees Tarot deck is probably always going to be in my top 10. I love them. I love them dearly. Adam's one of my favorite artists. I really love his work. I love how like alive and real and almost a little bit human like the human emotion on an animal's face feels so wild to me. But there are like, I can like read these cards a little differently, and though historically, again, this isn't my most used normally. I use Smoke, Ash, and Embers, I think either last year or the year before, was like beat this out for my top 10, I think it was. And I got the mini this year though, or the end of last year, and I personally use the mini a lot. And then for readings, so many people chose this deck, and it honestly helped me use it more myself, because I was getting really was really connected with it. I have Thistledown now, which is another reason, again, I use it a lot. I have Heartwood in this. I like to use actually both of them with Thistledown and like do a full big pair up. And I don't know, again, it's just really weird. I think Heartwood would be in my top 10 if I had it a little longer, but I've used it a lot this like half of the year for, again, what I've been doing for tarot. I don't know if I mentioned in this video, but I know I've mentioned in others that my practice has definitely died off. Like August, September, October were really hard months for me and tarot in general. I have a lot going on, and then obviously certain things have to kind of fall off when all hands are on deck. So it's been really nice that a deck like Oak, Ash, and Thorn has kind of still been, like, I'm not using tarot a lot, but when I do, it's like one of the decks I pull for. So that's another reason it's like, wowzer. I want to give you an answer, so that feels hard though. I probably did more different things with the Gentle Tarot, which could kind of edge it out maybe to number one. There we go. That's how I'll do it. I will do the Gentle Tarot at number one and Oak, Ash, and Thorn at number two, because I even did art with the Gentle Tarot this year. And I also follow Mari on Patreon, and so there's been like a lot of other things like the Gentle Tarot backgrounds that I've had on my phone. So I guess I'm just a Gentle Tarot girl. This was fun. I would love to see and hear yours, so let me know when you do, if you post it, or if not, just like comment below and give me your top decks. It doesn't have to be your top 10 tarot, but just give me some decks that you really loved this year, because that would be really fun to share. And until I guess the Oracle video, I love you. See you.